Hello everyone, welcome to Oliveboard. In this particular video, we are going to discuss about 3 rules of SEBI related to ebook mandate, auditing norms and EL rating scale, that is expected loss rating scale. Okay, so 3 updates we are going to discuss here. Before starting the video, I would like to tell you that we are launching a new workshop here. So it's 28th May ko hai, it's on 28th May 6 PM on Zoom. This is a free workshop and you can ask us anything about your RBI Grade B examination 2025 related to your strategy or any kind of query you are having, right? So please do join this workshop. We'll be sharing 7 game-changing tips here, and definitely we'll be also having Q&A sessions with all of us, right? So this is a live workshop. You can join it on the Zoom on 28th of May 6 PM. Don't forget to subscribe for it. If you are preparing for your grade B examination, then you can also start your journey with us today. You can download our Oliveboard application to download this PDF and all the PDFs related to YouTube sessions. You can also start practicing the previous year questions. Now let's start with the topic. The first thing is reforms in the electronic book provider platform. So there is a EBP platform. Okay, it's an electronic platform where we use it for the purpose of private placement of debt securities. Now there are so many technical jargons in this particular news, so I'll try to break it down for you guys. The objective here is to enhance the efficiency, transparency and standardization of private placement of debt securities via the EBP platform. So that's the objective, to enhance the efficiency, transparency and standardization. So first, for you guys who are not able to understand what is private placement, what are the debt securities, what is EBP platform all about, let's come to the basics. Debt securities. So debt securities is nothing but a loan taken by the company. Let's suppose a Reliance Industry. Now let's suppose Reliance Industry needs money, right? So what they can do is they can issue the bonds or debentures and raise the money from the investors. So in return of the money, they issued a bond or a debenture which will be giving fixed interest to the investor. They will be paying the fixed interest to the investors, right? So bond and debenture is nothing but a debt security, right? It's a debt security. It's a fixed income, fixed interest bearing security, right? The Reliance Industry will be paying fixed interest at fixed dates to the investors for this money, on this money. Let's suppose the bond was worth 1 crore and they are paying 8% as the coupon rate on it. So 8 lakhs every year Reliance Industries will be paying to the investors, and after the maturity period they will be repaying the principal amount of 1 crore as well. So that's nothing but debt securities, right? So we are having equity as well as debt. Let's suppose if I talk about ways of raising money. How to raise finance? So we can raise it via equity. We can also use debt securities like bonds, like debentures, like long-term loans, right? So these are my debt securities. Okay, then the term is private placement. Private placement. So when I'm issuing my securities, I can do it in the IPO market, initial public offering market, right? Or I can do it via FPO, further public issue, or I can do it via private placement as well. So IPO and FPO, we are offering securities to large amount of public, to general public. Anyone can apply in the IPO and the FPO. However, if I talk about the word private placement, as the name says it all, we are privately placing the securities to select few individuals. We are not giving an offer to public at large, like just in the case of IPO or FPO. We are issuing the securities to private select individuals. Okay, we are not making issue at large. So instead of raising money from the public, companies can also raise the money by selling the securities directly to a small group of investors. Let's suppose Reliance Industries wants to issue bonds, okay, wants to issue bonds or debentures. So they have selected that we'll be issuing only the bonds to HDFC Bank and SBI Bank. So they need to make a private placement for this. They need to make a private placement for this. That's not at all an IPO or an FPO, because it's not to the public at large. However, they are making the issue to few select individuals, right, or group of entities or companies. So I have also mentioned examples also for later on. You can download the PDF and read these examples as well. Okay, so that's private placement. Next, what is electronic book provider? Nothing but an online platform where big debt issues. What do you mean by debt issues? So we have already taken the example of Reliance Industries. They were issuing debt securities, right, and that too on a private placement basis. So let's suppose Reliance Industries is issuing debt securities. Now it can be anything. It can be a bond, it can be a debenture, right, to, let's suppose, HDFC Bank and SBI. So can I say that I'm issuing debt security and that too on a private placement basis, right? Reliance Industries is issuing debt securities and that too on a private placement basis. So here the provision of electronic book provider will apply, right? It's an online platform where big debt issues. This is a big debt issue. Let's suppose it's of 50 crore, let's suppose. Okay, so I need to, the investors need to bid electronically for that. Okay, so they need to come to this platform and bid for these debt securities. That's what electronic book provider is all about. It's nothing but an online platform which will be facilitating the transaction related to debt security that are based on private placement basis. Okay, so these conditions are important. Debt securities should be there and we will be making a private placement, then only EBP platform is compulsory. Okay, non-convertible redeemable preference shares. So this word will also come circular के अंदर, आगे ये वाला word भी आएगा, non-convertible redeemable preference share. Let's understand it as of now only, अभी का अभी only, then we'll be able to understand the circular in a better way. Okay, non-convertible redeemable preference share. I hope you guys know what is the difference between equity shares and preference shares. Equity shareholders are the owners of the company. However, preference shareholders are not directly the owners of the company, though they are shareholders, but they are not the real owners. Okay, so as they are owners, they are having a high amount of risk, plus they get a higher return as well, because risk and return always go hand in hand, right? However, if I talk about the preference shareholders, they are having low risk as compared to the equity, plus they make low returns as well. I can say that they are having fixed returns. Let's suppose we have issued 1 crore worth of preference shares, so we need to pay 8%, let's suppose, to the preference shares holders. So in that manner, the 8% will always remain the fix. Even if I earn 100 crore, even if I earn 1000 crore, the dividend that I need to pay on the preference shares is 8% only, because that's fixed, right? So it makes it a low return asset plus a low risk asset. Okay, that's a low return, low risk for the investor, and I need to repay it back as well. So that's the difference between preference shares and equity shares. Plus, as equity shareholders are the owners of the company, they do have a right to vote on any decision. However, that's not the case with preference share. They cannot vote. Okay, they cannot vote. Now, if you know the word preference shares, the meaning of the word preference shares, we can easily understand non-convertible and redeemable preference share. What do you mean by term redeemable? That means the company needs to pay it. Okay, let's suppose my company, Prateek Taldar Private Limited, issued preference shares to you guys. I issued preference share capital worth rupees 1 crore to you guys. I raised the money. I got money from you. I gave you the preference share capital of 1 crore. Regularly, I'll be paying you fixed dividend. And let's suppose after 5 years, I'll redeem that. What do you mean by redeem? I'll pay you money back, right? I'll pay your money back 1 crore rupees and I'll redeem my preference shares. That's what redemption is all about. That means मैं आपको पैसा आपका वापस दे दूंगा, ये redemption का मतलब होता है. Now sometimes these preference shares are also convertible. What do you mean by convertible? Instead of paying you back the money, I won't be paying you money, instead I'll pay equity share capital. So what I can do here is, I won't be paying you back your 1 crore rupee. However, I'll pay you 1 crore worth equity share capital in my company. That's called convertible preference share. However, the terminology that we are using here is non-convertible. That means we cannot convert it into equity shareholder, equity share capital. We need to redeem it. We need to pay the money back, right? So sir, why we are studying the concept of non-convertible redeemable preference shares here? Because you already told that this circular will be applicable on debt. So don't you feel, guys, non-convertible redeemable preference, that means I need to redeem it anyhow. I need to pay fixed amount of dividend on it. I need to repay it back after 5 years. Don't you feel that it's a kind of debt only for the company? It's having all the characteristics of debt only. Just instead of principal, just instead of interest, we are paying fixed dividend here, but the amount is fixed, right? So it's as good as debt only, right? That's why we are reading this non-convertible redeemable preference shares. ये आगे आने वाला है in this circular as well, right? So ये सारी terminologies का मतलब you must know, okay? Now let's start the circular. Reforms in the electronic book provider platform. So where it is applicable? Now it is mandatory. We need to mandatorily use this platform for the following types of private placement of debt securities and non-convertible redeemable preference shares. So if you are issuing any kind of debt security or non-convertible redeemable preference shares, that too via the route of private placement, then the use of EBP platform is mandatory. However, there is a limit. There is a limit for that. The EBP platform is mandatory, subject to a monetary limit. Okay, so do remember this limit. If you are making a issue of 20 crore or worth 20 crore or more, right? The issue is worth 20 crore or more than 20 crore. That's a debt security or a non-convertible redeemable preference shares. You have opted for a private placement route. You need to mandatorily do that via EBP platform, right? Via EBP platform. Sir, what's the need of issuing it via EBP platform? Look, it's for efficiency purpose. It's for enhancing the transparency purpose, right? Because the issue size is huge. It's 20 crore or more than 20 crore. That's why we want to make it as transparent as we can, right? So there is an electronic platform that's in between to make it more transparent. Earlier the same limit used to be 50 crore or more. Now it is 20 crore or more. Okay, so if we are issuing debt security, if we are issuing non-convertible redeemable preference shares via private placement method, we need to do it via EBP platform. That's mandatory, and the limit is 20 crore or more. Earlier it used to be 50 crore or more. Okay, so if that's a case of single issue, what do you mean by single issue? In single shot, I'll be making an issue of either 20 crore or more than 20 crore. Then obviously I need to use this platform. Obviously I need to use the EBP platform. If the case is of shelf issue, so in what happens in shelf issue, we used to issue the capital in multiple tranches. Okay, let's suppose I'm issuing it. The first issue I'll be making it worth rupees 10 crore, then I'll be doing it via worth rupees 5 crore, then again 3 crore, then again 5 crore, right? Then again 5 crore. So multiple times I am doing it via tranches in a financial year. So what I'm doing here is, obviously the issue size is more than or equal to 20 crore. Then again I need to do it via EBP platform. It doesn't matter that the single tranche is of less than 20 crore, right? So one can argue कि सर यहाँ तो 10 crore ही है, 20 crore तो नहीं है, यहाँ तो 5 crore ही है. So why I will be using the EBP platform? You need to use it. Why? Because all the tranches, multiple tranches in aggregate are either equal to 20 crore or they are more than 20 crore, right? So that's the case of shelf issue. Now what happens, shelf issue के अंदर everything is planned, okay? Everything is planned कि मैं multiple times इतने बड़े issue लेके आऊँगा. However, sometimes the issue is not planned. Let's suppose on 1st of April, I made a issue of 10 crore. Then in between, let's suppose December, I again made a issue of 10 crore. Right? That's a subsequent issue. Still, it will be considered as one only. So 10 plus 10 means 20. I have exceeded the limit of my EBP platform limit. I have achieved the limit of 20 crore, right? यहाँ पे मैंने 20 crore का limit पूरा कर दिया है या उससे ज़्यादा हो गया है. So in that case, what I need to do is I need to again use the EBP platform. So it can be either via single issue, it can be via shelf issue, multiple tranches में issue किया हो, या फिर subsequent issue भी हो, doesn't matter. The concept is one financial year के अंदर अगर आपने 20 crore या उसके ऊपर का issue कर दिया है via private placement, via debt securities or non-convertible redeemable preference shares, in that case you need to compulsorily use the EBP platform. The earlier limit was 50 crore, now it is 20 crore. This is important, okay, for your examination, and that's what written here as well. So if you are making a private placement of debt security or non-convertible redeemable preference shares, then you need to follow these guidelines. The issue is 20 crore or more, you need to do it via EBP platform, and that's compulsory, okay. However, if the issue is not crossing the limit of 20 crore, it's below 20 crore, then that's optional for you. If you feel like using it, you can do it, right? ऐसा नहीं है कि मैंडेटरी है तो ही करना है, आपका इशू कम का भी है तो भी you can opt for it, right? That's possible. In case of securitized debt instruments, in case of security receipts, CPs, CDs, also you can use it because these are nothing but the debt securities only, right? ये भी तो debt securities ही है. What is securitized debt instrument? Let's suppose I am creating a pool of loan. I'm having a lot of loans, let's suppose car loans, home loans, other kind of loans. So what I'm doing is I'm pooling it in a particular security, and that security is called as SDI. Okay, I'm pooling all my loans. I'm creating a security out of it कि इसकी securities बना दो और investors को बेच दो. That's nothing but securitized debt instrument, right? So it's a pool of loan which is combined and converted into tradable securities. Why I'm doing it? Because these are illiquid asset. These are illiquid assets, right? I cannot sell a loan directly to somebody. Rather, it's quite easy to sell securities based out of that loans, right? Let's convert that loan into securities, SDIs, and then sell those SDIs which is freely transferable, right? So that's securitized debt instrument. So these are also kind of debt security only. If I talk about security receipts, then they are issued by asset reconstruction company. So let's suppose there is a bank who is having 100 crore worth rupees NPAs. Now that's illiquid. What a ARC can do it, ARC will buy these loans काफी सस्ते में, right? And from where the ARCs will get money? From the investors. So investors will inject money in ARC. ARC will buy these loans, and in return ARCs will issue security receipts to these investors. So what we are doing, this is a process of securitization, right? We are doing nothing but we are converting a illiquid asset, these NPAs, into tradable securities that are security receipts. So whenever I am receiving money from those NPAs, I'll be paying it to my investor. When I'll be receiving interest principal, I'll keep on paying the investors, and obviously as a ARC I'll be buying these 100 crore worth NPA at deeply discounted price, right? These are NPAs. So what I'll do, I'll buy it, I'll restructure it. We have already discussed the concept of securitization multiple times, right? In many videos. So these security receipts are nothing but a debt instrument, right? So we have covered all the debt instrument plus the non-convertible redeemable preference share as well. So these are optional for the SDI security receipts because they are directly not a kind of bond or debenture. However, they are similarly a extension of debt securities only, right? So we have included that as well, but they are optional, they are not mandatory. Okay, So if you are making a issue of SDI or security receipts or CPs or CDs, you can also use the EBP platform. That's optional. Next is infrastructure investment trust, real estate investment trust, right? SM real estate investment trust. इनके भी यूनिट्स अगर प्राइवेटली प्लेसमेंट में इशू हो रहे हैं तो डेफिनेटली यू कैन अगेन यूज द ईबीपी प्लेटफॉर्म. दैट्स ऑप्शनल. ओके, दैट्स नॉट मैंडेटरी, प्लीज डू रिमेंबर. Timelines for submission. So the existing issuer need to submit every required document within 2 days before the issue opens. However, if you are using the EBP platform for the first time, there is a slight relaxation to you guys. They have given you 3 working days prior to the issue of the offer, right? If you are already have issued the securities on the EBP platform, then definitely 2 working days. If you are a first timer, then 3 working days are mentioned. Okay, disclosures requirement. So there is a green shoe option also. The maximum limit is 5x the base issue. What do you mean by base issue? Let's suppose my base issue of 100 crore, I am issuing debt securities worth rupees 100 crore. Then I do have a green shoe option also of 5x of it. That means 500 crore, right? Sir, what do you mean by green shoe option? It's nothing, it's an option where the companies can definitely sell extra share. We are talking about the share market here. If I talk about the debt security market, then in that case the companies can take extra loan or can issue extra debentures, extra bonds, right? Extra non-convertible preference shares, redeemable preference shares, right? So let's suppose my issue is worth only 100 crore. However, the green shoe option is 5x, so I can also issue securities up to 500 crores. Even if my issue size is of 100 crore. However, if there is a huge demand, then I can use my green shoe option and I can obtain further borrowings in the form of debt securities. That's what green shoe option is all about, right? So do remember the limit here is 5x. Okay. So here we can see that the SEBI has also expanded the scope to real estate and infrastructure investment trust as well. So if they are issuing the security, that too on the private placement basis, definitely they can opt for electronic book mechanism. For them, this is optional. Okay, this particular feature is optional. Then we are having anchor investor allocation as well. So what do you mean by anchor investor? And can anyone tell me in the comment section? What do you guys mean by anchor investors? What is anchor investor? So let's suppose I'm issuing securities, right? Let's suppose a company is issuing securities, Zomato. Zomato is issuing equity shares, let's suppose, to general public in an IPO. Right? So Zomato is making an IPO. They are issuing securities and raising money from the general public. Now, in order to build trust, how the trust will get built? How they can build the trust? If big investors are investing money in Zomato, definitely the general public will also gain confidence, right? And that's what anchor investors are all about. Anchor investors are big. They are trusted institutions like SBI mutual fund, HDFC mutual fund, or HDFC bank, or it can be any other big organization. So what they are doing is they are investing their money in Zomato before the IPO. So if they are investing their money before the IPO, so the general public can also gain confidence कि यार इतना बड़ा इन्वेस्टर इसके अंदर इन्वेस्ट कर रहा है, डेफिनेटली उन्होंने ड्यू डिलिजेंस किया होगा, सारे एनालिसिस किए होंगे और उसके बाद ही वो अपना पैसा इन्वेस्ट कर रहे होंगे, राइट? सो दे ऑल्सो गेन कॉन्फिडेंस. दैट्स व्हाट द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ एंकर इन्वेस्टर्स इज ऑल अबाउट. दे आर investing in the equity shares or debt securities of any organization before the IPO itself. Okay, so there is an anchor investor allocation as well, which is mentioned here. So if the instrument rating, sir, what is instrument rating? Look, here we are talking about debt securities, and whenever debt is there, the rating must be obtained, right? किस क्वालिटी का डेट सिक्योरिटी है? सारे डिबेंचर्स एक ही क्वालिटी के थोड़ी होंगे यार, राइट? जोमैटो का डिबेंचर और रिलायंस इंडस्ट्रीज का डिबेंचर की रेटिंग में तो फर्क होगा ना, राइट? सो व्हाट इज द रेटिंग ऑफ योर इंस्ट्रूमेंट? इफ इट्स AAA, AA+, AA और AA-, then the anchor portion of the as a percentage of the base issue size should not exceed 30%. Let's suppose my base issue is 100 crore, then 30 crore maximum here. If the issue if the instrument rating is A plus or A minus, then 40 crore, 40%. If below than that, then 50%, 50 crore, right? तो अगर जैसे जैसे मेरी रेटिंग गिरती जा रही है वैसे वैसे ऑब्वियसली एंकर का पोर्शन बढ़ता जा रहा है. जितने ज्यादा एंकर आएंगे उतना ज्यादा ट्रस्ट. पहले रेटिंग में अगर मेरी हालत खराब है तो डेफिनेटली एंकर इन्वेस्टर्स को ज्यादा आना चाहिए. दैट्स व्हाई दे हैव केप्ट दिस लिमिट लाइक दिस 30, 40, 50%. ओके, 30%, 40%, 50%. सो ट्रिपल ए और डबल ए वालों के लिए तो यहाँ पे 30% है, सिंगल ए वालों के लिए यहाँ 40% है, और अदर्स के लिए कितनी है यहाँ पे 50% है. डू रिमेंबर इट. आगे चलते हैं. नेक्स्ट सर्कुलर इज रिलेटेड टू इंटरनल ऑडिट मैकेनिज्म एंड ऑडिट कमिटी नॉर्म्स फॉर MIIs. व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय MIIs? मार्केट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इंस्टीट्यूशंस. दीज आर नॉट मार्केट institutional investors, right? These are market infrastructure institution. That means they sum up to become the entire infrastructure of the stock market, right? ये ऐसा organizations है, ऐसी entities है जो infrastructure बना के देती है पूरी market को. So infrastructure में क्या आ सकता है? There can be stock exchange like BSE, NSE, National Stock Exchange, Bombay Stock Exchange, clearing corporations who settle the transactions, then depositories like CDSL, NSDL, right, who are keeping the shares on your behalf, on the behalf of their investors, right? They act as depositories. So these all the companies, these all the entities are creating infrastructure. They are giving infrastructure to the market. That's why we call it as market infrastructure institutions, MII, right? Considering the importance of these institutions. Why? Because आप सोच के देखो ट्रेडिंग कैसी हो सकती है विदाउट स्टॉक एक्सचेंज, क्लियरिंग कॉर्पोरेशंस एंड डिपॉजिटरीज. सो दीज इंस्टीट्यूशंस आर वेरी क्रूशियल फॉर द good governance perspective, from the good governance perspective. So that's why SEBI has mandated internal audit of these institutions. कि आपको तो आपकी internal audit करवानी पड़ेगी. सर, what do you mean by internal audit? What do you mean by audit? पहले वो समझो. Internal audit, दो वर्ड्स आते हैं. One is internal, another one is audit. Audit means examination of your books of accounts or financial statements. Examination of your books of accounts or financial statement. I can say checking of your books of accounts or financial statement, whether you have prepared your books of accounts and financial statement in adequate manner as per the rules and regulations or not, right? That's what audit is all about. Let's suppose Reliance Industries have prepared their books of accounts, have prepared their financial statements, so they need a independent party to check it whether they are proper or not. So here we are having stock exchange, we are having clearing corporations, we are having depositories, whether they are maintaining all the processes, all the books of accounts, financial statements, transactions properly as per the laws and regulations in India, as per the SEBI regulations or not, right? That's what we check in auditing. That's what an auditor checks in auditing, right? And this has been done internally. So that's why we call it as internal audit. That means we are doing this audit internally itself. Obviously, there is a concept of external auditor as well, where a third party auditor will come and check your books of accounts, who is completely independent. We are here talking about internal audit. There's a difference between statutory audit, external audit, and internal audit. Internal auditor can also be an employee of the company as well. Okay. So here SEBI has laid down कि भाई तुम अपनी internal audit करवाओ, right? Why? To operate transparently and accountable, right? There should be as much transparency as possible. Why? Because you are creating the infrastructure of the stock market. अगर कोई भी गड़बड़ हुई यहाँ पे, then definitely it will be huge, right? It will create a lot of problems in the stock market. So that's why be as transparent, be as accountable as you can, right? And we also called internal audit as a third line of defense. So there are multiple lines of defense here. The first line of defense is your operational teams. all the teams, right? Second line of defense is nothing but those who are setting the rules and regulation. If I talk about risk management and compliance teams, risk management committee, right, audit committee, so these are your second line of defense. And your third line of defense is internal auditing, right? They will be checking your books of accounts activities, so definitely they are internal auditors. They are checking your transactions. So what's the scope and coverage here? What will be the scope and coverage of internal audit? So definitely the critical functions, the regulatory and risk compliance, whether everything is getting complied or not with the rules and regulations, right? Investor grievances are resolved or not, everything auditor will be checking it, right? Other functions including the business development, whether they are going as per the order or not, right? Whether they are going as per the stated process or not, as per the standard operating procedures or not, everything will be checked by the internal auditor here. The audit firm will be completely independent, right? So it should be completely independent. There should not be any kind of conflict of interest here. And the appointment will be approved by the audit committee and governing board. So what do you mean by audit committee? It's a chapter as well. So you do have chapter of corporate governance and banking in your course, okay? So if you have read that chapter, you must be able to answer the question of audit committee. So in company, there are board of directors. Board of directors are running the company, right? Out of the board of directors, some of the directors form audit committee to oversee the audit function, whether the auditor is doing the work properly or not, fixing the remuneration of auditor, right, resolving the queries of auditor, a lot of things related to auditor deals the audit committee is dealing with, right? So here the audit report will only be addressed to the audit committee. The reporting structure is the auditor will be reporting to the audit committee itself, okay? Then the timeline is, again, you must be aware of the timeline as well here. So the auditor must brief the audit committee twice a year. So 2 times a year, the auditor definitely will brief about the processes and everything, his findings and all, twice a year, okay? Composition of audit committee, who will be a part of audit committee? So no executive director will be a part of audit committee. What do you mean by executive director? Look, if I talk about directors of companies, then there are executive directors, there are non-executive directors as well. Executive directors are those directors who participate in day-to-day functioning of the company, right? Day-to-day business of the company. However, non-executive directors do not participate in day-to-day functioning of the company, rather they are more of in compliance side, okay? So just like that, in audit committee, no director will be executive director, all will be non-executive director. So some of you might have heard the word of independent director as well, okay? So they are the sub part of non-executive director. Those who do not have any kind of financial relationship or conflict of interest with the company, they are independent director. They are sub part of non-executive director only. Okay. So only those will be the part of audit committee who are non-executive director. हम नहीं चाहते कि कोई भी ऐसा director जो day to day activities के अंदर involved हो, वो audit committee का भी part बने. क्यों? अगर उसने कोई fraud किया हो, कोई error किया हो, क्योंकि वो regularly involved है company के operations में. सो डेफिनेटली अगर वो ऑडिट कमेटी का भी पार्ट बन गया तो वहां पे ऑडिटर को भी मैनिपुलेट करने का पूरा ट्राई करेगा. सो वी नीड कंप्लीट इंडिपेंडेंस हियर, दैट्स व्हाई नो एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर्स आर अलाउड हियर. ओके, so this is from the audit committee side. So what you guys need to remember here for important for your examination, एक तो internal audit का mechanism से भी लिखा है. market infrastructure institutions क्या होते हैं, इसका purpose क्या है करवाने का, right? This is also called as third line of defense. रिपोर्टिंग स्ट्रक्चर क्या है, ऑडिट कमिटी क्या होता है, नॉन एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर क्या होते हैं, एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर क्या होते हैं, टाइमलाइंस क्या है, दीज आर अगेन इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट? सो प्लीज डू रिमेंबर द स्टफ. लास्ट वन इज EL based rating scale for municipal bond. What do you mean by EL? Expected loss. So this is nothing but a expected loss model for the municipal bonds. What is the objective of it? Background and objective. Now what happens here is CRAs are now allowed to use a expected loss based on the rating scale as well, in addition to the probability of default based scale. So what CRAs are doing is, earlier they can only use probability of default model. Okay, now they can use expected loss as well, expected loss model as well, in addition to POD. So we haven't scrapped the probability of default model. However, we have incorporated a new expected loss model, which is a broader model if I compare it with the probability of default. Already EL के अंदर probability of default का भी पार्ट होता है, मैं आपको आगे समझाता हूँ क्या बोलना चाह रहा हूँ. Rationale of bringing this thing, so municipal bonds are usually issued by the urban local bodies for infrastructure development. Since recovery of these funds in projects can vary, so EL based rating can provide a better insight. So look, समझना बात को. EL based के अंदर क्या होता है, दो चीजें होती है. एक तो PD ऑलरेडी होता है, probability of default ऑलरेडी होता है, प्लस expected loss भी होता है, expected loss post the default. So because it's the case of municipal bonds, there are probability of recoveries in the near future, right? So it's better to opt for expected loss model rather than probability of default model, because expected loss model is having both probability of default as well as if there is any kind of recovery, post recovery after the default, it considers that as well. So definitely SEBI has advised the CRAs to please use the EL based credit rating scale in addition to the traditional rating scale here. Okay, so that's the concept basically. So this decision has been taken after taking in view of stakeholders as well, right? The Corporate Bond and Securitization Advisory Committee as well. So basically this is just to enhance the classification criteria, just to bring that probability of default after the any kind of recovery process is also there, right? Agar kahin recovery ho jaye after default as well, so they want to bring that thing as well in the accounting of this, right? So this is applicable with immediate effect here. This is applicable to credit rating agencies, debenture trustees, issuer of municipal bonds and non-convertible securities, stock exchanges, depositories and all. You don't have to remember the section, right? The purpose is obviously to protect the investors' interest, to promote the development of municipal bond market. They want to promote the development of it and to bring transparency and risk representation. So broader यहाँ पे approach होती है expected loss model की rather than probability of default. So that's why they have considered this particular thing. Okay, so now let's quickly practice some of the MCQs related to these three things. So फटाफट से let's practice some of the MCQs related to these circulars. SEBI has revised the electronic book provider norms to make private placement of debt securities more transparent. Key additions include disclosure timelines, anchor investor rules, and limits on green shoe option as well. What is the maximum limit for the green shoe option in a private debt issue as per the SEBI circular? So that's a very straight, that's a completely limit based question. We have already studied this, right? आपको मैंने example दे के भी बताया था. So do let me know in the comment section फटाफट से what should be the correct choice here. The correct choice here is 5x of the issue, option D is the correct choice here, right? Next is SEBI has mandated to use the EBP platform for certain large private debt placement. What is the minimum issue size threshold for mandatory use of the EBP platform as per the SEBI's May 2025 circular? What is the minimum issue size? Earlier it used to be 50 crore, now it is 20 crore, okay? Earlier it used to be 50 crore, now it is 20 crore. So remember both the things. In your previous year question paper we have seen that वो पहले की लिमिट भी पूछ लेते हैं. जैसे I roughly remember कि कोई debt security related question आया था. So the India has transitioned from T+6 to T+3, right? However, they have asked you the earlier limit of T+6. You have also discussed that in previous year question as well. So ये आप ध्यान रखना दोनों limits. To enhance accountability in the market infrastructure institutions, SEBI mandates a clear reporting channel for internal audits. To whom the internal audit report in the MIIs, to whom the internal audit needs to report in the MIIs as per the SEBI guidelines. So we have seen that auditor, internal auditor will be reporting to whom? the audit committee, right? Option C is the correct choice here. Audit committee will be reporting to the, sorry, auditor, internal auditor will be reporting to the audit committee here, right? What is audit committee? The board of directors, the non-executive directors among the board of directors will constitute the audit committee, and the auditor will report to the audit committee here. Next is, timelines are crucial for maintaining transparency in the private placement. When must the existing issuer submit their placement document on the EBP platform before opening the issue? So here is the case of existing issuer. This is the case of existing issuer. So we will be giving 2 working days here, right? SEBI has defined how frequently internal auditors should interact with the audit committee. As per the SEBI norms, how often the internal auditor brief the audit committee in the MIIs? Monthly, quarterly, annually, twice a year, or on every board meeting? What should be the correct choice here? The correct choice here is option D, twice a year. Okay. Next is, the revised EBP norms include a cap on the anchor investors based on the credit rating of the instrument. This ensures fair participation and balanced risk taking among all the investor categories. According to the revised SEBI EBP guidelines, what is the maximum anchor investor limit for A+ rated instrument? So I have already told you that 3A होंगे तो अलग है, सिंगल ए होगा, 3A और डबल ए होंगे तो एक ही परसेंटेज है, सिंगल ए होगा तो अलग परसेंटेज है, और अदर्स होंगे तो अलग परसेंटेज है. व्हाट इज द लिमिट फॉर A+ रेटेड इंस्ट्रूमेंट हियर? Here the correct choice is option D, 40% of the base issue. And the last question for today is, what is the timeline for a first timer issue on the EBP platform to submit their placement memorandum and term sheet? और इसका आंसर मैं नहीं, आप लोग मुझे बताओगे कमेंट सेक्शन के अंदर, राइट? सो डू लेट मी नो इन द कमेंट सेक्शन व्हाट शुड बी द करेक्ट आंसर ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन, और मैं करेक्ट आंसर फिर वहीं पोस्ट कर दूंगा. प्लस आई डोंट थिंक कि मेरे पोस्ट करने की रिक्वायरमेंट भी है, बहुत ही सिंपल क्वेश्चन है. ओके, सो डू लेट मी नो इन द कमेंट सेक्शन. मिलते हैं किसी और वीडियो में. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर वॉचिंग.